So I consider our muffler about 80% done. And what we need to do now is fit it to the bike or mount it to the bike because it needs a way to stay on the bike. We're going to use the stock BMW muffler clamp, which is a huge clamp. The stock BMW muffler has a diameter of my prom date's calf. So we are going to cut down this stock strap and make it hold our muffler. Here we go. So to me, there's nothing more terrifying than trying to cut thin gauge metal on your bandsaw. So I've made a nice platform guide you see there. Wear gloves, wear eye protection, take it slow, and count your fingers. So here's our new muffler mounting bracket. As you can tell, I have reshaped it after, of course, I cut it and I welded it to make it shorter. And what I did not show you is probably an hour of hand bending this. Fit it, hand bend, fit it, hand bend, fit it. That's just what it comes down to with something like this. It now does clamp onto our muffler. Very nice. So what I'll do is show you it now, the muffler on the bike, but it will now show you the next issue we will have to address. So there it is, the new muffler with the bracket on it. Fitment is pretty damn good. It's exactly where I wanted it to be. If I look down here, there's plenty of clearance. I did remove the rear shock so that I could move the swing arm up and down and double check clearance. However, this brings up the next challenge, which is this. So I need to now make a connector pipe from this exhaust to the inlet on the muffler. However, they do not line up very well. As you can see, the center line of this pipe and the center line of that pipe do not cross. So I will have to make a very fancy L shape out of quite a few pie cuts of titanium. More than I have, and a lot of welding, and it'll look funky. So I've got to substitute for doing that. I was hoping not to do this, but I believe this will be a better answer, which is we are going to cut this tailpipe here right across there where you see that line. We're going to then rotate the whole assembly inward about 5 or 10 degrees till it lines up better with the inlet on the muffler. I was hoping to avoid this because this is ceramic coated, so I'll have to grind all that off and then make a decision if I want to recoat it afterwards. But at the end of the day, it'll be a cleaner, simpler, and easier task than the pie cut ORAM I'd have to do otherwise. Here we are cutting what I'm going to call the mid pipe to get it ready to rotate it and weld it back into place. Always a little sketchy to have an odd shape being cut in your bandsaw, so it's necessary that I hold it. Not optimum, but I'm going to take it nice and slow. All right, crazy good news from cutting this pipe. You can see I've got some tape here holding it in position, rotated it in, and after doing that, I'll tell you what, I can just run one straight pipe coming out of the muffler that'll be welded on there, weld it onto the slip bracket, and we're done. No pie cuts, not one. Little bit of a kink there. The purists might go, oh, there's a 2.5 degree straight bend. The exhaust gases are not going to care, and I don't care. So anyways, what I care about is less welding. So I only have to weld one there, and we are done. So you're gonna see a bunch of weld clips, and then I'll meet you back here for the final fit. So as I weld this lead pipe in, you'll notice that red silicone hose. That is what's feeding argon to the inside of this muffler as I'm welding it. The argon will not react with the molten titanium as oxygen will. So it does not taint the weld in any way, but you have to tape up and block all outlets. Welding is all done, and as you can see, I think it came out pretty good. I also did a quick polish on the rest of the muffler. Now, we've got to do a quick fix though. One thing has become clear. These two bosses for our valve assembly, they are no longer in alignment. They have what I'm going to call diamond. They have done this. So those two holes are no longer in alignment and they are not lined up with each other, those bosses. So what you're going to see me do now is put it back on the mill and take these back down to align them. And then we need to drill and ream through all the way through because we got to go through that baffle core to get ready for the valve assembly. So after looking at it, I think the best way to do this is we're going to, as you can see, put the muffler in the vise this way so I can make an end mill pass on this boss and then just swing over here and do the same on the other side, and that will bring them, those two surfaces, flush with each other. So let's see how that goes holding a thin-walled, basically tin can. Let's see. On my initial attempt to make this cut, I came across some very bad chatter. The solution I came up with to stop Chatty Cathy here is to just put some simple clamps, hand clamps there on the casing itself. And that seemed to mellow out the vibrations. And we still got a little bit of chatter, but the finish was fine on the surface, so it was acceptable. So there you go. There's your fix. So correction number 2 is now that hole on each of those bosses are no longer concentric. They are actually like that. They are non-concentric by about 30 thousandths of an inch. So I kind of planned for a little bit of offset. That's a little bit more than I was hoping for, but it's fixable. The hole we drilled in there is actually a 1/4 inch hole. The shaft that's going to activate the valve is 3/8 of an inch. So we have plenty of room to bore that hole out to make it concentric with each other and take the 3/8 shaft. However, you can't do that with a drill. That drill will try to follow that existing hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to end mill it, plunge with an end mill with that offset, that 30 thou offset, and that should get the holes aligned. We'll do the top one and then you'll see me flip the part 180, do the bottom one, and yeah, we'll see if this then fits, see if my theory is correct. Here we go. I decided to drill the clearance hole for the valve shaft on the inner core separately, not do it at the same time with the outer casing. In this case, we used an end mill, a 1/2 inch end mill, to give that 3/8 shaft plenty of clearance, as opposed to a drill, just because drilling into that perforated tubing can be kind of sketchy. So 1/2 inch end mill did a great job. And done with this stage. The hole came out very concentric for the valve shaft, moves freely, but not a lot of play. So this is a good place to end this episode. In the next and final part of this build, we're going to work on this valve assembly. It's going to take actually a decent amount of engineering and machining to get this valve to work the way I hope it does. So see you there.